Okay then, the Premier League season is over, and of course we made predictions at the start of the season that we now need to look back on. How many did I get right? As well as all the positions in the Premier League, I predicted the top goal scorer, top assister, player of the season, young player of the season, which are still yet to be decided, as well as the cup competitions where there's some really interesting predictions to look back on. Now let's start with the predictions that I made for the top goal scorer this season. I said that it would be Aubameyang at Arsenal. The sponsor for this video is OneFootball, and you can use the OneFootball app to look at all the statistics for the Premier League season. So let's see exactly how our prediction went. Well, not very well. Harry Kane got the top goal scorer with 23 goals, and it in fact takes a little while until we find Aubameyang, who scored 10 goals in the Premier League this season. Why did I exactly predict Aubameyang to get top goal scorer is a great question that I can't really answer. And we can still use the OneFootball app to look at the amount of assists that players got in the Premier League this season, and the top assister was again Harry Kane. I said that it would be Kevin De Bruyne, a very easy prediction to make, and he got 12 assists, so he was fairly close. That meant that overall in the season, Harry Kane finished with 37 goals and assists, Bruno Fernandes after him on 30, and then Salah with 27. With Euro 2020 very close now, the transfer window just around the corner, you need to keep up to date with all the latest news, and you can do that by downloading OneFootball. All you need to do is click the link in the description. So then let's get into the league table, and let's start off with 20th and 19th place. In 20th I had Fulham, 19th I had West Brom. Two teams that I said would get relegated, and they both did get relegated. West Brom did finish 19th, that is a correct prediction, but Fulham, they finished 18th and not 20th. The reasoning for me putting Fulham at the bottom of the league was due to the players that they had at the time. They hadn't signed all these exciting players that we've seen throughout the season. The defence was totally changed with the signings that they made, Anderson and Tosin coming in. So the 20th place prediction was made due to the standard of players that they had at the time, which just weren't up to the quality of the Premier League. With West Brom, I was bang on with the 19th place prediction. I never really saw them as a team that could stay in the Premier League. That prediction was made with Bilic in charge. They sacked him, brought in Sam Allardyce, signed some players to try and transform the team, and they did start getting a few good results here and there with Sam Allardyce, but it was all a bit too late. In 18th place, the other team that I said would get relegated was Crystal Palace. Now this was a really poor prediction from me. I just didn't know who the other team to get relegated was going to be, and the reason why I picked Crystal Palace was due to their form at the end of the previous season. However, at the same time, I just knew that Roy Hodgson would keep them in the Premier League, so why did I put them in the relegation zone? The thing is though, I predicted them to get relegated in this season, and it was never realistic that they would, but next season it's looking a bit more likely that they potentially could with the player contracts, a new manager coming in. It's all going to be a bit unsettled at the club, and potentially relegation could be on the cards. One place above, I put Newcastle United in 17th. Now this was really close to being correct, however their end of season form was a lot better and they shot up to 12th place. And what really got them up the league table, finishing in 12th place in the end, was Joe Willock on loan from Arsenal. What a signing he was, and they need to do anything to keep him at the club permanently. Overall for Newcastle United, we know they're a completely different team when their best players are fit, and really we're talking about Saint-Maximin. It is simply put, if he's in the team, they're playing better football, and if they can continue to make signings like Joe Willock, then they'll be moving in the right direction with good momentum going into next season. In 16th, I didn't say this club would get relegated. I said that Aston Villa would finish in 16th place. A lot of people were saying that they would get relegated, however I was a bit more optimistic about them. However, I wasn't so optimistic to put them in 11th place. Looking back at the notes that I made for the reasoning of Aston Villa in 16th place, I said that Matty Cash was a good signing, and I think he proved that. I said that future signings looked likely. At the time it seemed like Josh King was going to happen. That didn't happen. Instead, Ollie Watkins came into the side. I was fairly confident they would sign a striker, and that's why I was a little bit more optimistic about them. And I also said about their positive finish to the previous season. All of this made me a bit more optimistic about Villa's season, but of course they did a lot better than 16th place. Now look at the state of this next prediction. 15th place, West Ham United. A lot of people had them around this position though, it wasn't just me. They proved everybody wrong, and when I say they proved, really David Moyes proved everybody wrong. In fact, I was seeing West Ham fans themselves saying that they would get relegated. For me, David Moyes is my manager of the season exactly for this reason. Saying that they would finish in 15th and getting into European football, 6th in the league, is really fantastic. In 14th I put Brighton, who finished 16th this season, and I expected them to have a better season, and it didn't really reflect in the league table position. However, when you look at the stats and their performances throughout the season, they were definitely better in defence. They've not been able to finish the many chances that they create, and it seems like they're not going to do it with these players. It all comes down to the summer transfer window. Who can they bring in to help with that issue? I think we're just waiting for that moment for Brighton to start converting these draws and losses into wins. They're very close to doing that. The summer transfer window is crucial for them to bring in new attackers and especially a goal scorer. In 13th I put Leeds United, who we all expected to have a good season in the Premier League for a newly promoted side, but didn't really expect the 9th place finish, finishing in the top half, Bielsa has done brilliantly there. When Wolves got promoted, they finished 7th place back-to-back, so can Leeds United in their second season in the Premier League once again finish in the top half? To finish in the top half again is a big ask, but I think they're capable of doing it. They were able to bring in good quality players in the last summer transfer window. Can they do that again this season? 12th place, well, I put Sheffield United, and a lot of people said this really. They said them in the bottom half, but not getting relegated. Well, some people put them to get relegated, but I thought with the way that they play, they'd be able to have another good Premier League season. What I find really weird though is out of the bottom 3 teams, Sheffield United were the team to have the most wins. They got 7 wins, which is so weird to look back on. They went so long without a win and their points total was really low. Now though, without Chris Wilder going into the Championship, how will they get on? Can they bounce back into the Premier League? That would be a little surprising. In 11th place, I put Burnley, which I guess didn't really make sense with the situation going on at the club. They started the season with a lot of their first team players out of the squad, which made it really hard for Sean Dyche. 17th place is where they ended up finishing, 39 points though, 11 off the relegation zone. New owners have come into the club. It will be interesting to see what direction they take. Will Sean Dyche stay at the club? That is the big factor. In 10th place is an interesting one. I put Everton and they ended up finishing 10th, so this was a correct prediction. Straight away after I uploaded my video and made this prediction, I didn't feel like it was the right prediction for me to make. Everton then signed some great players and Ancelotti in charge. They started well in the league. It looked like this prediction was going to be way off. However, with their inconsistencies, it's ended up becoming the correct prediction. Their form really slipped from March onwards, but I still think Ancelotti needs another summer transfer window to bring in the same quality of players that he brought in last year. In 9th place, I had Southampton, who I really expected to have a good season. That's why I made that video on them at the start of the season about how Hasenhüttl had really transformed the team. Coming into this season, they were one of the most informed teams in the Premier League, and I really expected that to show at the end of this season. It did throughout, and they were top of the league at one point, but Southampton with Hasenhüttl are currently a team when you don't really know what to expect, and that needs sorting out. In 8th place, I put Wolves. They ended up finishing 13th, and it's easy to put that down to the striker Raul Jimenez not being in the team. You look at each of their seasons in the Premier League. Their first season, they scored 47, then they scored 51. This season, 36 goals scored. The same can be said about goals conceded, 46, 40, and then 52 this season. They have got a new manager coming in now to freshen things up, and it'll be really interesting to see Wolves and what style of play they have under a new manager. But I don't think we're just going to see changes in the dugout. I think there's going to be a lot of changes on the pitch, and especially with player departures. In 7th place, I put Leicester City, and I definitely should have put them higher in the league table. This is a really poor prediction. They did good in 2019 to 20, so why would I say that they'd finish 7th place? They finished 5th this season. They should have finished in the top 4. However, what they are showing is that they can compete around in those positions. So in terms of predictions and looking to next season, we really need to start seeing Leicester as a team that finish in the top 4 or 5. In 6th place, I put Arsenal, and they ended up finishing in 8th. It means that they go into next season without European football, and it also means they become a team that are really hard to predict where they finish in the Premier League. Right now, there isn't any consistency surrounding the club. They need a lot of work doing in the transfer market. The younger players in the side have really carried them through the season, and Joe Willock, if he was in the side, I'm sure would do the same. From what I'm seeing, it seems like there's going to be a lot of player departures at Arsenal this season, a big revamp of the squad. I think that is what they need, but it all then depends on the players that they're bringing in. In 5th place, just missing out on the Champions League spots, I had Jose Mourinho's Tottenham Hotspur. We all know what happened. It started really well with Kane and Son firing in the Premier League, a really good informed Tottenham Hotspur with Jose Mourinho, and then, well, he got sacked as he slipped out the top 4 and eventually finished 7th in the Premier League. Harry Kane said himself recently in an interview that they are going through a rebuild phase. He's a big part of it. He's leaving this summer, it seems likely anyway. The thing is with Tottenham is that they do have a good squad of players, however that all changes if Kane leaves. If they couldn't finish in the top 6 and win anything with Harry Kane, then it's hard to see what they can do without him. As we move into the top 4 then, in 4th place I said that Chelsea would finish there, and they did finish in 4th place. A lot of people thought they would finish higher because of their transfer business. Some people even thought that they'd win the league. The thing for me was, alright, they did some brilliant transfer business. Timo Werner, a great goal scorer in the Bundesliga. Kai Havertz, one of the best youngsters around. Ben Chilwell, a proven left back in the Premier League. They all had to gel, and for me, I couldn't exactly see Frank Lampard doing too well at Chelsea. So I said they'd qualify for the Champions League, but I couldn't see them finishing any higher, and it proved to be right. In 3rd, I had Manchester United, who did one better and got 2nd in the Premier League. I always knew that they would do better this season, and a big factor to that was that they had Bruno Fernandes for a full season. They finished the season losing 6 times, which was the same as Manchester City. So in terms of the Premier League, it's a step in the right direction, 8 points better for Manchester United. There was a lot of draws for them. Their start of season form wasn't brilliant because of their lack of preparation. The transfer window is a massive one for Manchester United to really bridge that gap over to Manchester City. In 2nd place, I put Liverpool. I really didn't believe that they'd they'd win the league title again, and that proved to be right. I didn't think they'd keep up the intensity of their performances from the last 2 seasons. And Liverpool did do well in the end to finish in 3rd place. It really didn't look like they'd finish in the top 4. And where the Liverpool side has looked fairly similar for the last 3 seasons, I think that is going to change as we go into next season. Which meant in 1st place, I thought Man City would win the league, and that was correct. You just always had that feeling, right? If Liverpool weren't winning the league, then the other team to win the league was going to be Man City. A big contributor to that was Ruben Dias in the defence and his partnership with John Stones. The ridiculous win streak from December into January really got them into this position, and eventually they finished on 86 points. So it means in my predictions I got 4 teams correct. 4 correct predictions is what I need to improve on, and that will be the goal for next season. Also though, I made predictions for the cup competitions. Firstly, the FA Cup, I said that Man City would win the FA Cup. That was quite close. They went out in the semi-final to Chelsea. For the Carabao Cup, however, I said that Tottenham Hotspur would win it. I said that Jose Mourinho would win a trophy at Tottenham, and he was very close to doing it. He got to the final but didn't get to play the final himself, and the winners of that in the end were Man City. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. It really helps the videos in getting found, and click the subscribe button if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it if you could.